Hello and welcome to this video on the differences in etiquette between the United States and France. Etiquette refers to the rules of behavior that are accepted within a society or culture. It is important to understand these differences when traveling or interacting with people from other countries, as what may be considered polite in one culture may be rude in another. We will cover a range of topics including greetings, personal space, use of formal and informal language, punctuality, and business etiquette. So, let's get started. Let's start with personal space. In the United States, a hug is the customary greeting between friends, while a firm handshake is the norm between colleagues. Americans are generally not very tactile and don't appreciate it when someone invades their personal space. It's important to be mindful of this and give people their space. In addition, Americans don't usually whisper in each other's ears or touch each other when speaking, unlike in some other cultures where this may be more common. It's important to note that Americans don't usually kiss when greeting each other, unlike in France, where it is more common to exchange kisses on the cheek. In American culture, it's considered normal and natural to strike up a conversation with a stranger, and asking personal questions is a common way to get to know someone. Don't be surprised if someone asks you about your families or hobbies during a business conversation. This may be different from other cultures where such behavior is considered impolite or invasive. Americans are known to be outgoing and easygoing, and they tend to believe that open communication is the best way to build connections and relationships. The American culture values social connections and friendships, and people often use small talk and personal questions as a way to establish these connections. But don't expect them to become your best friend after a casual conversation. In English, the word you is used as a general form of address, regardless of whether the person is a friend, a family member, or someone in a position of authority. Unlike in French, where there are different forms of you, tu, and vous to indicate levels of familiarity or formality, in English, the use of you is consistent across all contexts. This simplicity in language usage reflects the informality and casualness that is a characteristic of American culture. It reflects a desire to promote a more inclusive environment. Americans tend to see the use of formal titles as a sign of inequality, and by avoiding them, they aim to create a more equal relationship between people. However, it is important to note that in some professional settings, such as in the legal or medical field, formal titles are still used to show respect and professionalism. American culture also places a strong emphasis on informality and casualness in social interactions. This can be seen in the use of casual language and body language in everyday interactions. This informality is in contrast to many other cultures, such as those in Europe, where formal language and etiquette are more highly valued. Additionally, in the United States, it is common to use the phrase please and thank you frequently in interactions as a way of expressing politeness and gratitude. This is not always the case in other cultures, where such phrases may not be used as frequently or may have a different connotation. Now let's talk about cue culture. In the United States, the concept of line or cue culture is highly valued. People are expected to wait their turn in an orderly fashion and to be respectful of others around them. This applies to both physical lines, such as in stores or other public spaces, as well as virtual lines, such as telephone queues. People are expected to be patient and to not try to cheat the system by cutting in line or trying to sneak ahead. Those who try to do so will be reprimanded and may be seen as rude or disrespectful. It is also important to note that in the United States, people are expected to be considerate and respectful of others, even if they are away for a few minutes and keep their place for them. The American culture highly values fairness, and people are expected to follow the rules and customs of waiting in line. Now let's talk about business, because this is very important for you if you want to work in the United States. For example, feedback. Americans are generally more direct than French people, and feedback is given quickly. If you make a mistake, your supervisor will not hesitate to tell you. However, if you do a good job, your supervisor will also let you know. Let's talk about hierarchy. It is common for hierarchy to be more visible in the workplace. While it is common for people to address one another on a first-name basis, it is important to remember that this does not necessarily indicate a close personal relationship. For example, even if your boss invites you to a barbecue, it is important to remember that they are not your friend, but are rather a supervisor in your professional life. The distinction between friends, co-workers, and superiors is important to keep in mind in the United States, as relationships in the workplace can be more formal and based on professional boundaries. It is important to maintain a professional demeanor and to respect the hierarchy within a company or organization. In business, as well as in other areas of life in the United States, punctuality is very important. It is expected and time is seen as a valuable commodity. Arriving on time is considered a moral obligation and a sign of respect. People who are hosting guests should be ready to receive them at the agreed time, or even earlier. The ability to manage one's time effectively is also highly valued. While working overtime is not as common in the United States, deadlines are still respected. It is also considered disrespectful to arrive late to an appointment or meeting, and as such, people make a genuine effort to be on time. This cultural norm is different than other countries where punctuality is not held in such a high regard. Let's talk about dressing in the context of business. In the United States, there is a greater emphasis on comfort and informality in dress. Many workplaces have adopted a business casual dress code, which usually means no formal suits or ties are required. It is quite common to see employees wearing khaki pants, polo shirts, or even jeans and t-shirts to work. The dress code is less strict and people are allowed to express their personal style. This is in contrast to the more formal attire commonly worn in France, where suits and ties are the norm. Furthermore, the idea of working from home, which is more common in the United States, also contributes to the more relaxed dress code. As people are not required to go to a physical office, they do not need to dress as formally as they would for an office setting. And that concludes our video on the differences in etiquette between the United States and France. I hope you found this information helpful and that you feel more prepared to navigate cultural differences when interacting with people from these two countries. Thank you for watching.